All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Gerardo. We're going to be talking about PulseChain in this video, more specifically PulseSwap, which is going to be allegedly the premier DEX experience on PulseChain. We'll talk about what it means in terms of effect on Hex, in terms of what's the potential for PulseSwap itself, because there will be a token. So we're going to go over all of that and more. Smash the thumbs up button. Let's get to 10,000 subs. Fuck it. Let's get to 100K subs. Let's blast right through 10K. Appreciate all the support. All right, let's look into this. First of all, PulseSwap. What is it? Well, if you're familiar with PancakeSwap or SushiSwap, then you will understand PulseSwap quite easily. If you're not, no worries, we'll touch on everything. But if you've interacted with Hex whatsoever, most likely, chances are you've interacted with Uniswap, right? And app.uniswap.org is the official link. Make sure you always go to the right one and don't go to fake Uniswap. That would be bad. So Uniswap is where you swap your coins. It's where you swap your ERC20s for your other ERC20s or for Ethereum itself. Technically, you're wrapping Ethereum into wrapped Ethereum, so you're trading WETH, which isn't ERC20. Not going to get into that, but Uniswap is where you make your swaps. Now, what else can you do on Uniswap? Well, swapping isn't the only thing you can do. You can also provide liquidity. You can also set limit orders on Uniswap v3. So you can be an LP, you can be a swapper, all that cool stuff. Now, what happened with SushiSwap was it was a vampire attack, truly, because they essentially created their own fork of Uniswap and created a way for liquidity providers not only to earn fees in the form of ETH, but also in the form of an extra token called Sushi. So it was this added layer of incentivization for liquidity providers. And the reason it was a vampire attack was because I believe it was like a Uni developer himself. That's old news, honestly. So go ahead and feel free to correct me on any details I might be wrong on. But if I remember correctly, the Sushi fork was a vampire attack. It migrated a ton of liquidity from Uniswap over to SushiSwap. Then Uniswap was kind of like rushing, like, oh crap, what do we do? So they launched a Uni token, which doesn't really do anything truly, but hey, people like free magic internet money. All of that said and done, let's talk about PancakeSwap, right? Trust me, you'll start understanding a little bit more. It'll start becoming clearer if you just sit through and listen. Also, feel free to ask your questions down below. But PancakeSwap is essentially SushiSwap, but on a different chain. So that whole SushiSwap fiasco I explained was on Ethereum, on the ETH chain. PancakeSwap is on Binance Smart Chain. Now, Binance Smart Chain, commonly referred to as BSC, is truly a fork of Ethereum without system state, right? A stateless fork, whereas something like PulseChain is going to be a stateful fork. Point being, copycats got enriched in the sense that people who saw, oh look, SushiSwap gained a lot of traction, let's just fork it, call Sushi Cake instead. And instead of earning ETH and sushi, you're earning BNB and cake, right? The native token on the chain and the new token created basically for the DEX itself. So what is PulseSwap? Well, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the premier DEX experience on PulseChain, and I'll explain why I say that in a second. And you'll be able to earn fees by liquidity providing. So if you provide, let's say, a PRC ERC pair, let's say you provide your eHex and your Hex on Pulse, then, you know, with your ERC PRC pair in those pools, you'll be able to yield farm not only PLS, right, Pulse itself, the native coin to the chain, but also this new magic internet money known as PulseSwap. Now, I don't know what ticker it's going to have, right? I don't know if it's going to be PulseSwap written out, if it's going to be PLSS, PSW. That doesn't really matter at this point, but just so you know, you're going to be earning PLS and PulseSwap if you provide liquidity to this DEX. Now, the reason I say it's going to be the premier DEX on PulseChain is because, I mean, just look at the other front end that Richard Hart's dev team created, go.hex.com. Absolutely beautiful front end. And honestly, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be here. How do I say this? I think his dev team is very, very, very talented. The front end guys are very good. Again, go.hex.com is a really, really good experience. It is the premier experience for staking your hex. because truly, who goes to these other sites like another hex.win or through Etherscan itself? I believe you can stake. But the reality is go.hex.com has had 100% uptime, and it is the premier staking experience for Hex. So I guess based on that logic, it leads me to kind of not expect, but look forward to a really, really nice UI, right? With PulseSwap. And truly, it's really simple because you're really just forking Uniswap. And sure, you're adding some extra stuff on it, but at the end of the day, if you guys remember ethhex.com, that's a forked front end. It's not, I don't think it's forking the contract itself, but you get the idea. He has a phenomenal team, and I wouldn't be surprised to see PulseSwap become the premier DEX experience on PulseChain. So not only that, premier experience, largest yield farm ever potentially, because you're bootstrapping the community via being a stateful fork. What do I mean by that? Well, PulseChain is going to be potentially the largest airdrop in history because it enriches potentially ETH holders as well as ERC20 holders. I would venture to say that the ERC20 holders get a better, they're getting treated a little better than ETH holders because ETH holders are being diluted like by million X, just simply based off supply, the supply inflation from ETH to PLS, yet ETH holders are still getting a 1-to-1 copy, so they're being diluted by like a million X. However, ERC20 holders, they are not being diluted because they're getting their 1-to-1 copies, but the supply of those coins is pretty much remaining exactly the same. So any PRC20 ticker you see on PulseChain is going to effectively be the exact same code as its ERC20 counterpart, but it's going to live in a better environment, right? A cheaper, faster environment with a lot of cool things built into it. So there's a lot to cover, and we've covered all of this in a previous video, right? I think I called it like PulseChain pancake swap fork, but now we actually know the name, PulseSwap. And some of that info is outdated because I said something like yield might be paid out in what, PRC20s, when in reality, PulseSwap will be a PRC20. So I guess that is true, but yield will be in PLS and this new PulseSwap token, not in the coin that you're providing liquidity itself. So we'll see what happens, man. This is precedented, right? Again, this is the sushi chart. And sure, from August 31st to November, it had a huge dump. But after that, it rallied from about 42 cents to about $25. So that's a 54x in about 126 days. 54x in 126 days is what sushi did versus the US dollar. Now, Cake, the sushi counterpart on BSC, did a 230x in 168 days. So we're pretty much looking at 50 to 230x in a few months, right? Whether that be 5 or 6 months, it's looking like you see a nice 100x rally on average. So this is promising. This is promising for PulseSwap. Let me get back to this tweet, make sure we have covered everything. So premier DEX experience on PulseChain, because it's the same team as go-to-hex.com, most likely, which has had 100% uptime, very intuitive, aesthetic, practical user experience, largest yield farm ever, potentially. Again, it's going to be this cross-chain yield farm where you pair your PRCs and your ERCs in a pool and gain yield in the form of PLS and PulseSwap token. There's precedent in the pancake swap model. The sushi swap model creates a new coin for price discovery. And again, I just outlined now how the price performance was for each of these coins respectively. And the chart looks pretty dang similar for both Cake and sushi, right? So you just have this initial dump, initial sell-off, huge rally, and then this kind of action, right? And Cake did something really similar. Initial sell-off, you could even say it went down in this wick, huge rally, and then this sort of same shape, right? Same exact shape. Pretty interesting. So maybe not the exact same shape for PulseSwap, but something similar it wouldn't surprise me, right? So beware of a potential initial dip because it's pretty nasty. I won't count it down to that wick, but let's see, realistically speaking, an 85% drop. It's pretty huge. If we count this one on sushi, I mean, this is going to look absolutely nasty, right? 99%. But if we take it from just this candle, we're looking at a 92%. So an 80 or 90% drop from the get-go. I mean, it's possible. Depends on the launch mechanics, right? So we'll touch on the launch mechanics shortly because it will be a sacrifice phase for PulseSwap. But let's talk slightly more about what PulseSwap kind of does for the ecosystem. So we obviously know and love Hex, right? Here's our chart. And there have been a lot of people commenting in the past few months, like, once PulseChain launches, what's going to happen to Ethereum? Or excuse me, what's going to happen to Hex on Ethereum? No one really knows, but I think the fear that there's going to be a mass exodus from Ethereum Hex to PulseChain Hex is not as based as you might think. Because sure, there's going to be migration, people basically dumping their eHex either to get Hex on PulseChain or to buy Pulse itself or whatever, right? But remember, first of all, there are a ton of people staked for very long on Hex, right? This is a long-term mentality type crypto where people delay gratification, think for the long term. So there are people staked out for the long haul, huge incentive to maintain price, right? I mean, just look at certain Ethereum whales who have pumped up the price when we start hitting key levels, right? Right here is a perfect example is when we saw a whale, the God whale, with probably hundreds of millions of dollars in Ethereum start buying up the Hex price. And we're back at these levels now. Now, I don't want this to turn into a TA Hex video because we have plenty of those, and we'll touch on that shortly in a future video. But the point being, people have asked, is Hex going to just die basically after PulseChain launches? And my answer is no, because... or my guess would be no, because again, like I said, plenty of incentive to hold the price. There are Ethereum whales, just people in general who have incentive to keep this price up. Hundreds of millions of dollars invested, some people. And not only that, this PulseSwap yield pool gives new utility for all ERC20 tokens. So the beauty here is PulseChain wasn't created just for Hexicans. It was created for the entire Ethereum community, right? In the way that whatever ERC20 you like, or even ERC 721, right? Even NFTs. So whatever you like on Ethereum, it's been given a new utility on PulseChain. So you don't know what to do with your Hex? Put it in a yield pool, right? With ERC, PRC counterpart, and gain new tokens from there. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because PulseSwap itself creates new incentive to use your tokens. It creates a new utility for literally every single ERC20, which is huge in my opinion. Think about that again. PulseSwap, this premier DEX experience on PulseChain, gives new utility to every single ERC20 on the market. I think that's huge. Obviously, not all PRC20s will survive nor thrive, but my guess would be that in a cheaper, faster environment with a lot of cool stuff, my guess would be some would not only survive, but very much thrive. So not only are you giving your ERC20s new utility, but you're actually backing the value of the PRC20s with the ERC20 counterpart. So via the same logic that something like Uniswap works, right? Where you have pools of coins and you have 30 million USDC backing, say, what is it, like 150 million Hex. And so that gives you an effective spot price of Hex of about 30 or 20 cents, right? Because 20%. So if you have 30 million USDC backing 150 million Hex, one Hex equals 20 cents. If you have X amount of ERC20s, which have an established value versus the dollar, backing their PRC20 counterparts 1-to-1, in theory, their value should reach parity. Parity is how you spell that version of parity, by the way. It just means price will reach the same as its ERC20 counterpart. So PulseSwap, it's a big deal, in my opinion, right? It creates new utility for these ERC20s. It backs the value of their PRC20 counterparts. And it was created by Richard Hartwin himself. It's one of his projects, right, to create basically to fill in all the puzzle pieces of this new ecosystem. Someone's going to build them. Might as well it be the guy who created Hex, which ran up 10,000x in 623 days. So sacrifice phase for PulseSwap itself starts soon. And remember, guys, let me bring this up for you real quick. Back here in Hex. So this is for the Hex holders now, right? If you've been watching up to now, thank you. Congratulations. You've probably learned everything about PulseSwap that I know. I don't know if I can teach you or explain much more. At this point, we probably know the same about PulseSwap itself. But remember, now this is for the Hex holders. Remember what happened to the Hex price when Richard Hart announced that PulseChain was going to have a sacrifice phase. When he announced that, PulseChain is going to be a thing for the first time. That was around here. It was around mid-April. If you know the exact moment, I think it was April 13th, but don't quote me on that. But point being, Hex price was literally 10x lower than now. It was sitting at around 1.8, 1.7, slowly coming down to like 1.3 cents. So we were 10x lower in price. And then by the rumor, right? People were like, we could literally run up this not illiquid, but low liquidity, right? Modest liquidity coin. Let's pump it up, secure ourselves some value for the sacrifice phase, and basically dilute anyone who's not holding Hex. Pretty smart move. And that's literally what happened, right? Price ran up. When sacrifice phase opened, we saw a local correction, but all of the time from when PulseChain and PulseChain sacrifice was basically a rumor to when the sacrifice phase actually opened, we did more or less, we'll take it from local bottom to local top, and we ran up about 16x wick to wick. If you want to be a little more conservative, just measure candle bodies, instead of 16x, 12x. So 12 to 16x just based on the rumor. Could we see something similar happen? That would be absolutely huge, right? Even if we run up from here, what's 15 cents times 12? $1.80. 15 cents times 16, $2.40. So roughly a $2 target if we just repeat history and do the exact same thing that we did after here, right? So I'm basically saying, what if this happens? This is all speculation, by the way. All I'm saying is, look, there was a project known as PulseChain that a lot of Hex holders are excited about. And once the rumor became a thing that PulseChain was going to be a thing and sac phase was going to open, right? Hex rallied. I mean, that's just history. That's just facts. So a lot of Hex holders like the idea of PulseSwap, and I'm basically certain that they're going to sacrifice for PulseSwap. But in the meantime, why not take Hex off the market, make Hex more rare by sacrificing Hex itself if you have any liquid, right? If you're not 100% staked, or if your stakes are ending soon, hopefully before the sac phase for PulseSwap actually opens, then the price of Hex can be ran up, and it gives incentive to hold Hex now for the snapshot, as if we didn't, or not for the snapshot, oh my God, for the fork, as if people didn't already have enough incentive. So could this happen? I mean, it could. Is it going to happen? Who knows, right? Basically saying up to here, right? When sac phase for PulseSwap, let's say it opened on February, then it could look something like this. Obviously, no one knows what the price chart is actually going to do, but it's actually kind of cool, right? Because you rally up here, find support on this previous top. That would be really textbook, really beautiful. I can almost assure you it's not going to do the exact same characteristic curve, but a guy can speculate, right? This is all speculation, not financial advice. You should really only come to this channel for entertainment. But let's see if we covered everything. I think so, man. Once sac phase for PulseSwap opens, we could potentially have a much higher Hex price, which is good news for Hex holders. I think that's all, guys. We touched on everything. PulseChain or PulseSwap being the premier DEX on PulseChain, largest yield farm ever, precedented by the PancakeSwap SushiSwap model, new PulseSwap token, yay, magic internet money. Just the ROI of Cake and Sushi themselves in the 100x less than 6 months. Gives new utility to all your ERC20s. Dampens dumping of set ERC20s. So it's like a friendly migration, right? Literally complete opposite of something like Sushi, which was malicious, right? This is actually a friendly, not only a friendly fork, but a friendly migration of liquidity to yield farm, because you're not necessarily dumping your ERCs, you're pairing them, right? And yeah, backing value for all PRC20s. I'm just reading my notes here. It's a Richard Hart project, which, man, has a good track record. Again, just look at Hex, 10,000x, 623 days. Sack phase starts potentially soon for PulseSwap itself. So maybe it could send Hex rallying like this. Pretty comprehensive video, I hope. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them in the comments below, but thank you for watching. PulseSwap is going to go nuts. 2020 is about to go crazy, in my opinion. Again, thanks for watching. Let's get past 10,000 subs on our way to 100K and beyond. You guys rock. Check out LookIntoHex.com, lookintohex.com/VIP if you're interested in a little more content, weekly videos, custom trading view indicators, custom dashboards, liquidity calculator, all that fun stuff. Appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you in a future video. Peace.